So, welcome back. So, we have an amazing treat for you. Parker Lester from HUD, from Washington, D.C., actually made the trip. And we did not think that was going to happen. We thought he was going to be virtual. But it happened. So, amazing, amazing stuff. We also have Terry Lawless from Department of Commerce. And of course, the wonderful Melissa Donahue from the Commission. And so, following on Amanda's great groundwork, they're going to talk more about kind of what's going to happen and when. At least I hope so. And so each along a different kind of path. We are also going to have one other person here, but from rural development, but they're still putting together their path and they're introducing it to their staff like next month. So they said there was no point in talking about it because they didn't know what it totally is yet. So that's why that wasn't there. So I think we have enough to do it. And Amanda, are you still with us?
I am still with you.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for technical difficulties. You are a trooper. And so let's start with Lester.
Oh, turn the mic's on. Everyone can hear me. Beautiful. Okay, amazing. Thank you for having me out in the Pacific Northwest. I'm really glad to be here. I'm a huge Seahawks fan and Mariners fan. So, yeah, 3-0. Yeah, it's been rough for the Mariners, that's for sure. But I've been a fan for the last 20 years, so I feel like I can endure just about anything. Even HOTMA. So, really glad to be speaking with you. As Amanda had mentioned, we've had some updates very recently as to when we are expecting full compliance with HOTMA. But before I get to that, you all know, at least, and I'm here representing the Office of Multifamily Housing Programs, so all Section 8 project-based programs that run through the Office of Multifamily Housing Programs at HUD, I represent. I don't represent housing authorities, but we wrote the HOTMA implementation notice together. It's a supplemental notice that has both combined policy together, which is to say that if you're looking for PIH guidance on at the public housing authority you oversee, you're looking at the same notice, and a lot of these things will go kind of hand in hand with the multifamily housing policy. So to that end, with respect to multifamily housing programs, HOTMA is effective. It's currently effective. Final rule required that January 1st, 2024, the rule become effective. And so, yay, HOTMA's here, everyone. We made it. Now, obviously, there have been several delays. A lot of those delays have come through HUD systems. That HUD systems have been very slow to react to the provisions. If any of you have been in Trax, Trax needs to be updated to accommodate the HOTMA provisions. That hasn't happened yet. They're still working through that issue. I'm from the policy office. I'm not from the systems office. We're still working through that. And the extension of the compliance date that Amanda had mentioned to July 1st, 2025, that has come as a result of systems delays. So that's what's happening. That's why that's happening. However, what has already passed, if you are overseeing a project-based Section 8 property, that May 31st, 2024 date was the required date for updated tenant selection plans to accommodate HOTMA provisions. So at your next MOR, your PBCA or HUD staff member will be looking for the updates. I advise you all, tell your friends, get the word out that they'll be looking for that. So, sorry, let's try that. You got it. Okay. Yeah, sure.
So the PBCA's are going to be, since it doesn't sound like there was an extension on the town selection plans or the EIV policy. So again, yes, they will be looking at it at your next MOR, but let's say you have an MOR in April of 2025 when it's not fully implemented. Are they still going to provide observations and not findings?
So yeah, so with regard to HOTMA provisions themselves, those won't be findings. Those will be observations. But as it relates to the tenant selection plan, those will be cemented in findings at that point. If you, even though it's not implementable, yes. In fact, we did originally, if anyone was paying attention, March 31st was the original date for TSP selection plan, or TSP updated TSPs. We extended to May 31st, anticipating a January 1st, 2025 compliance date. But now that we've kicked it out even further, this is already cemented in sub-regulatory guidance. So get those TSPs updated if you haven't already. A lot of words here. We're just going to jump to the red, what's in red here. And then I want to have plenty of time for questions for folks. July 1st, 2025 is the new compliance date for HOTMA with respect to multifamily housing programs run through HUD. As of last Friday, that's fresh off, hot off the press. And then until then, as I mentioned, owners of these properties, if you are in the multifamily housing portfolio, you utilize, if you wish to implement any provision of HOTMA, you will utilize the rent override function in tracks. That is an option for you should you decide to implement. Next slide, please. I'll try this again. Oh, thank you. What is also very hot is the asset limitation. What is it? Why is it here? I don't know. Ask Congress, but we're just implementing it. So as you can see here, the asset restriction applies to any resident who owns over $100,000 worth of net family assets, as adjusted by inflation. I heard Amanda chat about the inflationary adjustments. We published a Federal Register notice to this effect with PIH. That's in the universe. There's also a website on HUD User, which is the policy development research side of HUD that walks you through the methodology. Grad school came in really effective for that Federal Register notice, and if you wanted to comment on it, the comment period is over. So feel free to still let us know if you find issues in the methodology. But we worked through that, and then I believe that there's a small change in the $100,000 limit for 2025. So pop in and check it out. What is it to like 103 or something?
I thought it was like 102.
102. Yeah, just a small increase. So let's see here. So and then also the ownership of real property that is suitable for occupancy. There are exceptions for sure, and those are laid out in that joint notice that we did with PIH. That notice, if anyone is familiar with Control F, if you have a question with respect to HOTMA, that is the HOTMA notice itself is a massive document. Pop in there, type in a few keywords, Control F. You're going to find what you need ultimately within the huge policy document that exists in the universe. That is how I've survived life up to this point in the computer age. Take that tip. Control F really is a lifesaver. The asset restriction applies to any program that has Section 8 DNA in the multifamily housing programs. So that's Section 8 PBRA and then Section 202.8. However, the following programs, 202.811, 811 PRA, SPRAC, these specific programs will not be enforcing the asset limitation. Next slide, please. And that's it. Thanks, everyone. Lastly, the implementation. This is all laid out in Attachment A of Housing Notice 2023-10. It's there. This is just the difference is this is nicely put together. Owners, agents, folks out here, you will all have discretion as it relates to implementing the asset limitation at IRs. So admission itself, you must enforce the asset limitation. However, with IRs, interim reexaminations, owners will have one of three options to implement the asset limitation. Now, Congress required that we implement an asset limitation. HUD in the policy office, we decided that you all know your communities best. It's time for you to utilize the policy in the favor of the residents. If you have a vacancy problem, implement the total enforcement, which is to say that you will take the asset limitation enforcement and enforce it to its furthest extent. Or you could totally not enforce the asset limitation at your discretion. If neither of those options really give you what you want, we've created a third option, which is a hybrid. A limited enforcement, which provides 6 months for residents to comply with the asset limitation from the time that they're found out of compliance, to cure their asset, to cure it and come back into compliance with the asset limitation. Exceptions exist, and those are laid out in that implementation notice, Housing Notice 2023-10. Hop in there, check it out. Control F. You'll find everything you need. It literally is in the first attachment A. So it just takes a moderate amount of scrolling. You can get there, get the full requirements for the asset limitation. And then, next slide. Here are some resources and materials. I recognize fully that these are links, and you all are not at your computers. So I'm going to ensure that this presentation gets sent around, and you guys have this in your wheelhouse. So the notices here, the distribution list, which we had sent the compliance date extension notification through this email distribution. It's the second one down. You as owners have a significant amount of discretion in implementing HOTMA. We created a list of discretionary policies that you have to implement, that you'll have discretion over. You can pop in there and check it out yourself. The mandatory exclusions list is there, and then some talking points too, if you need it for any reason, for residents or whoever it may be. And then lastly, the mailbox is here, mfh_hotma@hud.gov. Some poor sap in Washington is going to field your question. That poor sap is me. So we look forward to your questions. I don't know how much time we have here left, but we let's open up to Q&A for folks who want a piece of the Washington bureaucrat.
I do.
Yes.
I'm probably the one who definitely wants one. So I'm a trainer, so I started implementing as much as I could summer of 2023. So there was an awful, from the February notice. So there was an awful lot of things that we tried to get ahead of for the 1/1/2024 original implementation date. So I just wanted to reiterate that some owners have not done a single thing with HOTMA. I would say the majority of people probably have not done a single thing with HOTMA. But then there's going to be somebody who, like me, who for my clients I have implemented as much as has been beneficial for not only compliance reviewers, but the managers and the tenants and everybody, things like federal income exclusions, things like that. So I just want to know, do you foresee another implementation notice coming out before July of 2025 that is going to be a revision of the current one, but not necessarily, for example, more guidance on the new 5.9 or how to implement the model lease, the new model lease, or the 9887, not specific, or tracks, not specific to the things that are still yet to be given to us?
That's a really good question. I would say the priority right now, as it stands for us, is creating the forms themselves, the model leases, making sure that EIV and U brochure is ready. We're also working on an updated 9834 for MORs, which needs a serious update to accommodate both all of HOTMA, VAWA, Inspire. All of those things are coming through the 9834. So I would say, and your knowledge and work in the profession has leads you to know to expect very little from HUD, because I honestly see it. I've seen the inner workings of a lot of bureaucracy. I will say to that end, working very diligently to get those forms published to the multifamily housing policy drafting table for public comment. So those specific things will be coming. That is our priority. How to implement is something that we will get to after those specific forms have been published and are in the hands of owners and agents. Do I see the chance of another kicking the can down the road? We made this date out of optimism for the ability for HUD staff, HUD systems to be able to implement in a timely fashion. I honestly couldn't say. I couldn't say. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I don't expect
Yeah.
you to have an answer.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, is there going to be from can we rely on the most recent implementation guidance and then add on the new forms that will be coming, and I'm assuming a new MAT guide with 203A will come out and things like that.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Do you think
Yeah, no. So yeah, making sure that the materials that are required for HOP implementation are in the hands of owners and agents at 7/1/25 is the priority. Whether or not HUD systems are ready to go on 7/1/25, I don't know, but you'll have the forms. So that's something that my office is overseeing. So yeah, those will be in hands. And when they hit the drafting table, they're out for public comment. Review the leases, review the forms, give us your feedback. If something doesn't work, please tell us. And we have 30 days to implement those changes. We'll put them back out on the drafting table. So all of that information for the drafting table is coming through the email list as well. So when I send out that list, get on the email list. You'll get updated and stay updated. Other questions?
Any more questions? Oh, come on.
I didn't travel 6 hours for you guys to let me off easy.
Come on, folks.
oh goodness.
Yes, they're in the bank.
So one of the questions. So one of the questions that Amanda brought up is excluding tax refund from assets, still needing clarification if that is only on annual research or if it's on move-ins as well. Do you have an answer?
As of right now, and I noted Amanda's slide as well when she had brought it up, and thanks to Amanda for that. I don't have an answer. I will check with our Office of General Counsel to see what the reg requires and what kind of policy we can implement. Because we are so specific in the notice about IRs, I imagine that is kind of that's what we were looking for out of this specific policy point. But I'm going to confirm with our Office of General Counsel, and if we need to issue a correction, we will. But thanks for bringing it up.
Thanks.
Is that it?
So also kind of going back to what Amanda said with child support. I work with LIHTC deals, right? I'm from the Housing Finance Agency. So currently what we've been doing, and I mean, we've kind of been doing for a long time, is with child support, we will look at the last 12 months, right? And we'll see what they were really getting. If you get something from support enforcement, right? It was always proof that they tried to get it, only counting what they were really getting. But we would include, let's say somebody was going along getting payment here, payment there, and then there was a big payment, like usually in April. A lot of times it was a tax return, right? We always looked at that as part of what they received over the last 12 months and we counted it. Now, when I read it, it sounds maybe like we exclude that. Any comment?
Of the tax return?
Yeah, so if you're seeing...
Which is separate from the child care, correct?
Well, so you'll see a printout from support enforcement, and you'll see, you know, January got $100, February got $50, March got nothing, April got $2,500, and then it goes back to 100 or 50 or nothing. We've been taking what they got in the last 12 months, as long as that's not more than what they're supposed to receive over the next year. But we kind of, when I was reading the new stuff, that 2,500 that hits like kind of like a one-time big payment, to treat that separate.
Yeah. So as with like kind of all of the regulations, it's 5.609, right? If it's a lump sum payment of any kind, right? If it's a gift, especially if it's a tax return, right? Then under those circumstances, that is excluded from the calculation of income. But I think you may be asking a different question.
If that lump sum is right in the middle of some very small amounts and then boom, you get a really big one, it's not really considered lump sum or right? Because there's continual payments.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I guess I would need further clarification about the receiving the payment. If it's back child support from, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I'm going to write that down. Let's see. That's a great question. Thanks for raising that too. Will you also just email that MFH_HOTMA at HUD.gov as well? That way I can get back to you on that. I want to make sure we can answer.
Okay, I'll send you a sample payment history.
Yeah, send that over, and then I'm also going to check with our lawyers and make sure that we have a correct understanding of that payment.
Disclosing that email address.
Yeah, no, it's for the good of the public.
It's for the greater good.
It's for the greater good. But I've got a nice Excel sheet that automatically populates all of the emails, so don't worry. Send them. We'll make sure the staff gets to them as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, can I ask? I guess it's kind of along the same thing because that thing is really confusing to me. So back to child support, right? So Lana Kay used the example of like once a year in April, you might get a large $2,000 extra payment, let's just say. But we also see in a lot of circumstances where, you know, they won't get anything for 2 months, and then 1 month they'll get $1,000. And then they won't get anything, maybe a $25 payment the next month. And then, you know, a month later they'll get $1,000. So there's just way different totals each month. And how I was reading it was, you know, that you're going to do some sort of an average as long as the average looks like an average. But if it's large different payments all over the board, that's where we're having confusion of how to count that. Because you're not supposed to, when we read it, you're not supposed to do like an average of the last 12 months. It sounds like you're getting away from that. And so how would you do it in that circumstance? It's not just her scenario, but also the scenario that I'm asking, which is when it's all over the board, what do you do?
The comment up here was that happens a lot, that there's sporadic payments and they're kind of at random amounts. So I appreciate you asking that. I will say that I imagine, you know, according to what we had written in policy, and I don't want to say anything definitively because I would have to go look at the notice and the reg before I give a definitive answer. But that the average, the rule of the average of the last 12 months would still apply. even if that is a sporadic amount on a monthly basis. But again, that is where I'm leaning. That's not a definitive answer. Please also reach out to the email box. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, this is a topic that, because I'm on that national trainer call. Oh, sorry. I'm on that national trainer call where a lot of the trainers get on there and talk HOTMA. If you from Mary Ross does it. And this was a topic that I think we kind of all came to an assumption, because the rules have been so conforming about how to calculate child support. If you look in the HUD handbook, it doesn't even tell you how to do it. So I think that's we kind of realize that's why you decided on actuals for the last 12 months. It's how I've always been training it, because I had no other guidance, but it's just easier. It's just take the last 12 months, call it good. Arrears, the whole thing, it's just, the person who's receiving it can't deny that's what they got.
Yeah, from that, I can see from an owner and agent perspective that absolutely makes sense. Kind of the beauty of HOTMA is that it's requiring HUD to go back through and ensure that everything that's changing with HOTMA is reflected in the HUD handbook 4350.3, which is the occupancy handbook, and then add what wasn't there before, and then update existing policy too. So that's kind of where we're sitting in terms of hopefully implementing it on a broader scale, especially with the sub-regulatory guidance like the handbook. So thanks for that comment.
So you're working on the handbook then?
We are working on the handbook. If anybody knows of a contractor, just joking. I'm just joking. That was a joke. So, but we are working on the handbook. That is a priority. In terms of our office's priority, we're hoping to ensure that HOTMA policy works before we write it into a handbook. So in terms of systems and operations, that's kind of what we're looking at.
So you had your chance to talk to an actual member of HUD in person and ask questions. So let's have a big hand for Parker. And now we have Terry, who is going to talk about commerce and what the plans are, and she's also here in person, so big hand for her as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Terry Lawless. I'm with the Department of Commerce. Let's see. I don't have a presentation, I just have some notes. HOTMA has been a topic in our group for a really long time. So now that feels like it's here, got January 1st, 2025, we are sailing our ship in the right direction. One of the things I can say for the home and NHTF programs, they will all follow the 5.609 assets, except for there is no cap on the $100,000 asset, and we still would require the 2-month source documents. That clarification came in just earlier this week. So the same but different. We are working on updating our handbooks with HOTMA guidance. We're hoping, also, we're going to have some information for you on our website. But currently, right now, our website is under construction. So it's getting revamped as a whole, the whole Department of Commerce, not just MHU. So we will be utilizing that website for HOTMA resources, what have you. We'll probably send out a WBARS blast letting you know when it's ready to go, kind of pointing you in that direction so you can go in there and take a look. The idea that Department of Commerce has is to make this as painless as possible. There's going to be some pain. There's going to be some pain. But to collaborate more so with the commission office, we have like 40 to 50% of our projects are mutual. So as opposed to kind of coming in, we're seeing what we can do to make things the same where we can, to make it as easy as possible. I think I covered it all. If you have any questions, Melissa's available.
And if I don't know the answer, I will make it up.
So just to clarify, HTF will be in line with.
Yeah, the tax credit, yes. Our state HTF. See, I forgot all about that one. Can't forget about that one. Got home in HTF and then the state HTF. And the state HTF will, wherever we can, we're going to make it the same as the home and NHTF and as similar as we possibly can with the tax credit program. Does that make sense? Any questions? See, I didn't need a presentation. My hands are sweaty, I'm sorry.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, last but not least, I am going to talk about HOTMA and the tax credit program in Washington State. So I can tell you that we are working feverishly. Some of you, hopefully a lot of you, received a big email blast that we sent out. Seeing a couple of nodding heads, that's good. I hope there are more of you that got it. Email where we kind of went through and said, we're going to be implementing as of January 1st, 2025. What does that mean? That means that for any new move-ins and recertifications that you're working on right now, through 12/31 of this year, you can continue to do the old way. Whatever you are starting from scratch as of January 1st, that must be done according to HOTMA. So I hope that makes sense. And our first formal training on HOTMA is going to be the day after we finish our virtual online tax credit fundamentals compliance workshop in November. So please watch our website. We're throwing all of our effort into that class. We're going to bump up the registration limit so that we can get a lot of people in there. The first 2 days will be regular fundamentals compliance, although we will update pieces within that presentation that anything that directly contradicts HOTMA, we're going to replace that. But we're going to do an all HOTMA presentation that Friday following the fundamentals. That'll be about an hour and a half. And then about that time, or hopefully then within the next 3 to 4 weeks after the class, we will have our new forms published, our chapters updated in the tax credit compliance manual, and we will also have our tax credit FAQs updated. Now, in terms of content, we're adopting all of the income and asset inclusions, exclusions that have been made to the federal regulations. And when I say federal regulations, I am talking about 24 CFR Part 5.609. Please burn that regulation into your brain and get familiar with it. If you have not gone online yet and done a Google search for the Code of Federal Regulations 24, say it again, 24, that's I believe it's Title 24 of the Code of Federal Regulations, CFR, Part 5.609. Also 601 and 603. 609 is the really big one, because 609 goes through all of the exclusions and inclusions, I believe. It is critical that you know that regulation. Part 5.609 applies to every affordable housing program out there. So know it, because if you're running more than one affordable housing program, it applies to you. Even if you don't have tax credits, even if you don't have home, even if you don't have RD, if you're running something federal and it relates to housing, you need to know this federal regulation. The other thing you need to know, and I'm telling you this from personal experience, I've been to probably more than 7 or 8 HOTMA trainings at this point, and the most helpful thing for me has been to actually read through, and thank you, Parker, for mentioning this, the actual HUD HOTMA notice. It's 128 pages. I understand that sounds crazy, but I promise you, if you actually sit down with it and go through it, get your highlighter out, get a notepad, get a pen, and go through the notice, things will start to make a lot more sense. The guidance in the notice is actually, it's good. It's pretty well written. And it really does go nicely with the parts of the 4350.3 that are still in operation, that are still in effect and current. So I really encourage you to read through it. It will help you understand this stuff, I promise. I have gone through so many presentations and they've all been good. I've taken notes at all of them, but after every single one, I've had questions. As soon as I started going back to the notice and reading through the notice, I went, oh, that's what that means. Oh, I get it now. And of course, HUD's really good. They do this in the 4350. They've got examples. You saw the examples that Amanda pulled up and showed us. There's tons of examples in the guidance. It isn't all just the policy and the guidance. There's lots of examples. So please, I urge you, if you haven't taken a look at it yet, please do it and make it your best friend. Print it out if you need to do that. Post it on your desktop so you can open it immediately and look at it when you need to. And going through Parker, choosing the find function so that you can go in and search your terms and find what you need to find in the notice. I implore you, do this. You will really thank yourself. The other thing about HOTMA, and again, this just wasn't sinking in for me until I reread the notice like the 4th or 5th time and realized, holy cow, and Amanda touched on this, a number of these figures that were being given as thresholds or limits or deductions are now subject to an inflationary adjustment every single year. And HUD, as Amanda talked about, HUD has already published inflationary adjustments to the passbook rate, to the asset limit for the public housing and Section 8 programs. An aside here, I want to reiterate that $100,000 asset ceiling, not applicable to tax credits because it only applies to determine eligibility for public housing and Section 8. So it has nothing to do with tax credits. So if you have a tax credit project, there is no asset ceiling. There is no prohibition on owning real property. So I had actually heard that a few managers at some of our properties had mistakenly thought those things were going to be implemented for the tax credit program. They're not. So I want to make sure everybody hears that. So the inflationary adjustments, and then the 50,000 has already gone up and been adjusted by HUD. You're going to need to be on top of this every year like you are for the Social Security Administration COLA. You're going to have to train yourself every year. I go to the HUDuser.gov website. They have an inflationary adjustment page. I just found it this week. And I was like, oh, this is great. Bookmark. And it gives you a chart and it shows you all the numbers and it tells you what it refers to. And then it gives you the amount for the following calendar year. Really easy to read. And the effective regulation. Yes, thank you, Mr. Policy Man. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. So it's really helpful. HUDuser.gov is also where you go to get applicable income limits too, if you don't already know that. So it's a great website to know about. Tons of good information. Lastly, for the tax credit program, and this is a little bit tricky, recall when Amanda said that the tax credit program is covered by these changes because Section 42 says that for the tax credit program, income and assets must be calculated in a manner in accordance with how they're calculated for Section 8, right? Technically, the regulation does not specify that income and assets have to be verified according to Section 8 methodology, which is why the Commission never adopted HUD's verification hierarchy in the past. We never had to. However, HOTMA is a move towards simplifying and streamlining the treatment of income and assets across federal housing programs, and we want to really support that. There have also been a lot of what HOTMA does is also striving to be closer to other federal guidance that talks about wanting to make it easier for people to access housing. So this is a big push in a very particular direction, and the Commission wants to be on board with that. So as a result, even though we don't have to technically, we're going to adopt the HUD verification hierarchy. So obviously that leaves out EIV because you can't use EIV to verify stuff for tax credits. But levels 5 and on down, we're going to be adopting, and we'll have more information about that in our manual and guidance for, what kind of verification you need to be looking for. So I know that's a lot, but there's much more to come. I just wanted to give you kind of an overview of the biggest things to be thinking about. All right. Thank you. Questions?
There is a question in the chat. Do we have a better date when the Commission will have new forms? The announcement stated late November.
That's right.
Early December, which
That's right.
doesn't allow much time for companies to train.
That is all true, but that's the best we've got. Yeah. That's about as good as I can get it at this moment. We'll get more clarity on that as we get closer to the training in November.
Hi, sorry, Terry, I'm going back to you. You thought you were off the hook. I was just wondering implementation date for those of us that have Home National Housing Trust Fund or State Housing Trust Fund through Commerce. Is it also January 1 for
25? Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
And when the team goes out and monitors next year, they will be monitoring to HOTMA.
So just switch microphones when there's a question. So it's okay, probably good.
Maybe for Commerce. I just had a question. So I really appreciate, Melissa, what you said about tax credit getting on board with the methods of verification for HUD. That's going to simplify these managers' lives considerably. Why won't Commerce do that?
It's in discussion.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I can really say right now. We're just, it's an opportunity when new changes come through to kind of look at everything. We've got Inspire around the corner. I mean, we've got all kinds of stuff. So why not take a look at everything? So no promises, but we are looking at things.
Sheila, when you ask that, are you asking about all of the funding, or are you referring to?
Well, the multi-layered properties. So you got a tax credit, Section 8 with home or with the HTF or whatever. I'm not a trainer in that, but I just know the problems that are in that. So if with having to verify multiple different ways for the different funders, it's always very confusing for the manager.
HTF basically is in line with.
You can take it back to her. She's got an answer for that.
Sorry, HTF is basically already in line with the tax credit program. Pretty much. I mean, I think it's the home and like our federal funding is a little different, but that's just due to
Right,
the
but I'm talking
guidelines.
about with the Section 8, for example, tenant provided verifications, and changing to 2 paychecks as opposed to 4 to 6 paychecks.
Yeah.
Well, they only have to do that with home or with the federal funding because that hasn't changed. We actually verified it.
Yeah, the home and NHTF, we asked if we could follow the new HOTMA, and it was said that the intent was still the 2-source document. So I mean, we tried, but that's it.
And it's really only with like income. Yeah. No, sorry. Sorry.
But we are looking at it.
Any more questions? I know you have them. No? Yes. Hold on.
Hi, this is a question for Melissa. I was wondering if the 480 that will be adjusted for HUD for three different things. If the 2 things, adoption assistant payments and threshold to which you count earned income of a dependent student.
Correct.
Those will be changing every year.
They could potentially change. They are part of those numbers that HUD will apply, that HUD will review annually, and then they may apply an inflationary adjustment to. What we know is that for 2025, the 480 amounts are staying 480. So HUD looked at them and said, we're not going to change them. We're just going to keep them the same amount for 2025. But they said, let's change the passbook rate, the asset limit, and the $50,000 net family asset threshold. They said, let's change all of those, but we're not going to change the 480. So it's going to be really important for you to look at the HUDuser.gov website every year and see, okay, have they changed any of the numbers for next year? Because some they might change and some they might keep the same.
Okay, thank you.
Would it be possible to pull up the web page here? We could just show everyone how to access the inflationary adjustments. If you just go to HUDuser.gov, HUDuser.gov. This, as was mentioned, every August the updated figures will be published to this website, and so as you're looking forward to your January 1, effective date certifications, these numbers will be available to you to use. There's also, for those interested in multifamily housing, HOTMA resources page, which I'm sure you've been to, has a link to the inflationary adjustments as well. So, okay, cool. If you want to scroll down, I believe it's just there. In data sets at the top. Good one. Good one. Control F, please. Let's see. Oh, it may not be in this one. If you wouldn't mind just scrolling down. Yeah, I don't think it's here. They did move it. It was here. They just don't think it's important, those jerks. So if you wouldn't mind just scrolling down on the web page to PDNR data. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, just back up, please. Yeah. Okay, right there. PDNR data, the third one from the left. And then if you scroll down, there's a huge list here. Yep. annual adjustment factors. Let's see. Oh no, annual inflationary adjustments in passbook rate. Just under. There you go. There we go. Okay, so there is the. This is kind of the web page itself, and then if you scroll to the bottom, there's the actual figures that you can download. Just hit if you want to hit that calendar year 2025 revised amounts of passbook rate. That will give you everything that you need set up for the following year.
Really nice, simple chart.
Fun stuff. I recognize the notice is no Thoreau, so yeah, but we did our best, I guess.
So Amanda, do you have any questions for the panel?
Yes. Kind of just circling back, Parker, while I have you, circling back to the child support. And I know you're like, please don't ask me about child support again, but I'm gonna. So what we have always done with child support as outlined in the 4350 is if they're court-ordered support, but they're not getting it and they've taken legal action, it's been excluded. So the note in the implementation note, it does seem to indicate that if I have a court order of child support, I'm supposed to get $500 a month. I'm not getting it, but I've not made any legal attempt to collect it. That means that we would exclude it, even if they've not attempted to collect it. And I was wondering if you might be, and I can email it as well to you as well, if you don't want, I hate to put you on the spot, but I wanted to kind of ask that, then kind of circling back, and I'll let you mull on that for a second. Then circling back to another question that was asked earlier, kind of like a point, I think, and this is what I think was the intention of HUD saying that we're only going to get what they actually receive, because that recertification under 5609C2, it does say for HUD at recertification, instead of projecting income forward, we look at what they actually received. So I'm thinking at recertification, it's very easy. We would just look at what they got for the last 12 months. They agree with it. That's what we'd use going forward. So I think really kind of the issue is, what do we do at move-in if they're getting these sporadic payments? And then again, just circling back to, has the requirement been removed to where we are only going to exclude the child support payments if they have made attempts to collect it but are still not receiving it?
Yeah, throw those into an email for me. I can't just off the cuff throw you an answer. I just want to make sure anything that we do say definitively is also passed through the lawyers, ensuring that we give you a proper response, especially as you promulgate that information across the industry. Throw in an email. And then is there a way that we can communicate to this group, maybe through the app or something, some of the answers to these questions? Because folks want this information. I want to make sure it's accessible. But
I don't know. Michael, let's just talk afterwards, because the conference organizers, I don't know how long our conference website is up and how long materials stay on the website. So that's kind of the thing to know, but you and I should exchange some email addresses, and then we can keep in touch about that.
I've been told the app would be present for 3 months, be usable for 3 months.
Well, that's pretty great then.
And we can also do something in e-news, or put a special place for HOTMA. Believe me, there will be a special place.
Yes, but we also want to make sure everybody who doesn't have tax credits finds out about this too. So I think that the Housing Washington app would probably end up being a good place.
Now, isn't there a way that people can kind of participate in the processes that we're coming up with, with forms in that way?
Not right now, but there will be more to come probably next year, but not for this first. Getting over just the hump of needing to comply with HOTMA is a sprint right now, so we just have to go. But next year we may be doing some other things in terms of getting more formal feedback. We're actually going through a process to run our tenant-facing forms through a plain language review, and also getting some more formalized resident feedback about, and that will also include formalized feedback from property manager groups on our forms, so that we can take a really deep dive into issues of not only language accessibility, but just we're also thinking about, do we, do some of our key forms, do we translate them? So there's a lot of stuff coming next year, but the HOTMA piece, as I say, it's a sprint right now for us, and we are just charging ahead and doing what we can do to be in compliance. But there will be more sort of fine tuning and tweaking and some deeper dive stuff next year. Not in terms of, what we're adopting to do. We're not going to suddenly change our minds and go, oh, we're totally ignoring the $50,000, net family asset threshold. That's not what I mean. I just mean in terms of how the forms that we're using and some of the guidance that we're putting out may still continue to be refined over the next year.
Did you have a question, Amanda?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was like, I don't know if they're talking to me. I did just kind of had one kind of comment about the question that I believe was asked to Terry about the why can't, for home, why can't they adopt the HUD hierarchy? And I just kind of wanted to just give a little bit more kind of information on that. The reason why that can't really be adopted at the time of move-in is because that 2-month source documentation is actually in the reg itself at 92.203. There's options for how it's handled at recertification, but at move-in, it's really clear that it does need to be 2-month source document. So a lot of our, home PJs, they don't, their hands are kind of tied with what they're able to do at move-in. And then the last comment I had, Parker, is that we do at U.S. Housing do provide assistance with manual rewrites. So, hey, let me know if you need help.
Ask and ye shall receive.
Let me know. Actually, I think we had initially approached you guys, but I don't know where that went. It may have been before my tenure, but we'll strike up that conversation again as we look to do that again. It'll probably be in a bit, just to secure HOTMA policy and things of that nature. But expect a 4350.3 rewrite. And if any of you are interested, we're looking at publishing 4350.1 chapters. HUD is working on redrafting the asset management handbook as well, with some new additions there. So it's been busy. We've been very busy. So new chapters and hopefully new guidance for folks. But any other questions?
Well, thank you very much, and a big round of applause for all of our panelists. Amanda, hold on.
Just want to say thank you to Amanda Gross. Thank you so much for being with us. Even if we could only get you virtually, we really appreciate your knowledge and expertise. So thank you.
Yes, I totally wish I could have been there. The Pacific Northwest is one of my favorite places to be. I lived in Portland.
And it is sunny and gorgeous here today. Let me just tell you, it's pretty nice.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here with y'all.
Thanks so much.
Hi, y'all.